Hey guys, tonight we begin with the surprisingly monotonous and hilariously disappointing life of giant pandas, those black and white icons who've somehow convinced the world they're cute, while basically doing nothing but eating terrible food, and sleeping their entire existence is basically one long exercise in mediocrity and bamboo-flavored regret. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world now. Dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You arrive into the world like a pink jelly bean. Someone dropped in a fur coat factory, small, slippery, and profoundly unprepared for existence. At roughly the size of a stick of butter, you're what scientists might call altricial, though what you actually are is a blind, hairless embarrassment to mammals everywhere. Your debut performance consists of lying there, occasionally twitching, wondering why the universe is so cold and why everything smells like wet gymnasium carpet. Your mother, all 300 pounds of her, shifts slightly. It's less acknowledgement and more the way someone adjusts their position on a couch they've been occupying for 6 hours. She's been here before. Not motherhood necessarily, but this general state of mild inconvenience. Her breathing sounds like a broken air conditioner, rhythmic and somehow both soothing and concerning. You're tucked somewhere between her massive forearm and what you'll later learn is called an armpit, though right now it's just the warm, damp cave that constitutes your entire known universe. The den wraps around you both like a poorly insulated hug. It's a hollow in the base of an ancient fir tree. Or maybe it's a cave, honestly. You can't tell because your eyes are sealed shut like classified documents. The walls are probably earth and stone, packed smooth by generations of pandas who've done exactly this same thing, existed minimally. The floor beneath you might be dried bamboo leaves, though they've been compressed into something with the comfort level of a yoga mat left in the rain. Your first attempt at vocalization happens purely by accident. Air exits your lungs and produces a sound like a rubber duck being stepped on by someone who's trying to be quiet about it. It's not quite a squeak, not quite a wheeze, more like the noise a balloon makes when you pinch the neck and let the air out slowly. Your mother's ear twitches. It's the panda equivalent of hitting the snooze button. 20 minutes pass, or maybe 3 hours. Time doesn't mean much when your primary activities are existing and occasionally remembering to breathe. You try the sound again, this time with feeling. The rubber duck has asthma now, and possibly emotional problems. The squeaking comes in short bursts, each one a tiny protest against the cosmic joke of being born a panda. Outside the den, the bamboo forest conducts its endless symphony. It sounds like 1,000 wooden wind chimes having an argument about which way the wind should blow. Bamboo stalks knock against each other with hollow clicks and clacks, a percussion section made entirely of plants that refuse to shut up. Occasionally, something heavier crashes through, probably another panda, though it could be a falling branch or a confused tourist. The sound filters through the den walls, muffled and strange, like listening to the world through a pillow. Your mother finally acknowledges your existence, though acknowledges might be too strong a word. She rolls slightly toward you, a tectonic shift of fur and fat that rearranges your entire geography. Suddenly, you're pressed against something warm that vibrates with her breathing. A massive paw, each toe the size of your entire head, drapes over you with the casual indifference of someone pulling up a blanket. The mechanics of nursing remain a mystery for the first hour. Your mouth, approximately the size of a pencil eraser, must somehow connect with equipment clearly designed for someone else's baby. Maybe a baby whale. Your mother watches this process with the detached interest of someone observing a particularly slow-loading web page. Eventually, through sheer accident and the fact that you keep falling face first into the right general area, success is achieved. The milk tastes like, well, it tastes like something. Your taste buds won't properly develop for weeks, so right now it's just warm liquid that isn't air. There's a richness to it that your body recognizes, even if your brain doesn't. Something that says this will keep you alive. Probably. It's the first of many bamboo-flavored disappointments, though you don't know that yet. For now, it's just fuel for the important work of growing from butter stick to guinea pig sized. Between feeding sessions, you practice existing with varying degrees of success. Your limbs, which generously could be called limbs, Move in ways that suggest you're trying to swim through pudding. Each movement is a monumental effort that achieves exactly nothing. You're like a GPS system constantly recalculating, except the destination is anywhere but here, and the route involves a lot of face planting. The temperature in the den hovers somewhere between cave and armpit, a humid warmth that would be uncomfortable if you had any frame of reference for comfort. Your skin, pink and vulnerable as a secret told too early, slowly begins its work of growing the fur coat that will eventually make you look like a printer running low on ink. For now, though, you're just pink and slightly damp, like a very small, very confused ham. Your mother's stomach gurgles. It's a sound like distant thunder, or possibly a garbage disposal considering retirement. She hasn't eaten in days, possibly weeks, but leaving the den would mean leaving you. And pandas might be many things, but they're not the type to abandon their young. Even if their young looks like something that fell out of a pocket and sounds like broken bath toys. Night falls, though in your dark world the only indication is a subtle drop in temperature and a change in the forest's complaints. The bamboo symphony shifts to a minor key. Somewhere, an owl asks the same question over and over, never satisfied with the answer. Your mother's breathing deepens, becomes more regular. You're sandwiched between her bulk and the den wall, protected by sheer mass from anything the world might throw at you. Your last squeak of the day is softer, less rubber duck, and more deflating balloon. It's not exactly contentment, you're too new for such complex emotions, but it's something like acceptance. This is your world now. Darkness, warmth, milk that tastes like nothing, and a mother who treats you with the same enthusiasm she'd show for a particularly boring documentary. Outside, the bamboo continues its endless argument with the wind. Inside, you practice the ancient panda art of doing as little as possible while somehow making it look like work. Welcome to existence. It's going to be a long, boring ride. 2 weeks into your tenure as a panda, and you've mastered exactly nothing. This isn't false modesty or self-deprecation. It's a simple statement of fact. Your list of accomplishments reads like a blank page because that's essentially what it island. You can't see, can't walk, can barely squeak, and your greatest achievement to date is managing to exist for 14 consecutive days without major incident. In panda terms, you're already overachieving. Your body has graduated from stick of butter to small potato status, though you're a potato with ambitions that far exceed your capabilities. These ambitions mostly involve moving from point A to point B, where both points are within the same square foot of den floor. Your technique, if it can be called that, resembles someone trying to swim through concrete while wearing a straight jacket made of their own skin. The wiggling starts at your shoulders, or what will eventually become shoulders, and ripples down through your body like the world's least impressive wave. Your front legs push against the ground with all the force of a gentle suggestion. Your back legs aren't even trying. They're just along for the ride, dragging behind like reluctant participants in a group project. The overall effect is less crawling and more aggressive horizontal seizure. Your mother watches these attempts with the same interest she shows for everything. None. She's perfected the art of looking through you rather than at you, as if you're just another feature of the den, like a particularly mobile piece of furniture. Occasionally, when your wiggling brings you too close to the den entrance, she'll extend one massive paw and drag you back to starting position. It's less maternal concern and more maintaining the status quo. The real tragedy is your eyes, which remain sealed shut like a government conspiracy. You're essentially a furry potato with ambitions but no vision, literal or metaphorical. The world exists as a series of smells, sounds, and textures, none of which make any sense. The den wall feels like compressed disappointment. Your mother's fur feels like a forest that's given up on grooming. The air tastes like, well, air doesn't really taste like anything, but if it did, it would taste like bamboo. Everything in your future will taste like bamboo. Nursing has become slightly less catastrophic, though slightly is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. You've developed a technique that involves less face planting and more strategic nuzzling. Your mother's milk has taken on a distinct flavor that your developing taste buds interpret as warm liquid bamboo, which should have been your first warning about the culinary monotony awaiting you. But warnings require foresight, and you're still working on hindsight. The milk comes in sessions that last anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour, depending on your mother's patience and your ability to stay latched on. It's surprisingly exhausting work, this business of drinking. Your jaw, roughly the size and strength of a paperclip, must somehow create enough suction to extract nutrition from a panda who seems only marginally aware you exist. It's like trying to drink a milkshake through a coffee stirrer, while someone randomly moves the cup. Between feedings, you practice other essential panda skills, like sleeping and occasionally remembering to breathe. Your sleep comes in waves, deep and dreamless periods interrupted by moments of vague consciousness where you remember that you're supposed to be doing something. What that something is remains unclear, but it probably involves wiggling and squeaking, so you do both with diminishing enthusiasm. Then, on day 15, something changes. It starts as an irritation, like someone's pressing their thumbs against your eyelids from the inside. The pressure builds slowly, a biological imperative that says, your eyes have been closed long enough. Thank you very much. It's time to see what all the fuss is about. The first crack appears at the corner of your right eye. Light, which until now has been a theoretical concept like advanced mathematics or your father's involvement in child rearing, suddenly exists. It's offensive. That's the only word for it. The light is offensive in its brightness, its insistence on revealing things. Your pupil, experiencing photons for the first time, reacts like a vampire at a tanning salon. Your mother's face swims into view, blurry and enormous, like looking at a black and white cookie through a foggy window. She regards your newly opened eye with the same enthusiasm she'd show for a change in weather, which is to say, she notes it and moves on. Your left eye, not to be outdone, begins its own opening ceremony. Now you have stereo vision, which mainly means you can see disappointment in 3D. The den reveals itself as exactly what you expected. A cave, like hollow, that seems designed by someone who heard about comfort second-hand and decided it was overrated. The walls are dirt and roots, packed smooth by years of panda bodies doing exactly what you're doing now, lying around and wondering if this is all there. Island. Spoiler alert, it island. With vision comes new understanding, and with understanding comes the horrible realization that your tail exists. It's back there, attached to your rear end like a fuzzy afterthought. You can feel it now, a tiny appendage that serves no purpose except to confuse you. It doesn't help with balance, not that you have any, doesn't aid in communication, your squeaks handle that poorly enough, and definitely doesn't make you look more dignified. It's just there, like a participation trophy for showing up to evolution. You spend an hour trying to see your own tail, which involves contortions that your potato-shaped body isn't designed for. The effort results in you rolling onto your back like an overturned turtle, legs wiggling uselessly in the air. Your mother, displaying a rare moment of intervention, rolls you back over with the same energy someone uses to flip a pancake they don't particularly care about. The world beyond your mother looms blurry and incomprehensible. You can make out the den entrance, a slightly lighter patch of grey in your grey world. Sometimes shadows pass by it, birds, probably, or leaves, or possibly other pandas pretending you don't exist. The bamboo forest beyond remains a mystery, though you can hear it constantly. It sounds like nature's ASMR channel, if ASMR was performed by plants with anxiety. Your attempts at movement become slightly more coordinated, now that you can see where you're not going. The wiggling evolves into something approaching a crawl, if crawling could be done by someone who's forgotten they have limbs. You can cover almost 6 inches in just under 5 minutes, though usually in the opposite direction of where you intended to go. It's progress, technically. As the day wears on, and your eyes adjust to the tyranny of light, you begin to notice details. The way your mother's fur patterns create a map of black and white territories, the small beetles that traverse the den floor like they're on urgent business. The way dust motes dance in the shaft of light from the entrance, performing a ballet for an audience that doesn't care. Your squeaks have evolved too, taking on different tones for different complaints. There's the hungry squeak, rubber duck with bronchitis, the uncomfortable squeak, deflating balloon in a minor key, and the general existential dissatisfaction squeak, all of the above but sadder. Your mother responds to each with the same solution, repositioning you slightly and hoping you'll shut up. Night falls, and your eyes, exhausted from their first day of actually working, gratefully close. The darkness is familiar, comfortable even. Tomorrow you'll open them again and be disappointed by what you see. But for now, You're just a thumb-sized panda in a den that smells like earth and indifference, practicing the art of being exactly what you are, a small, furry disappointment with potential. The bamboo forest continues its nocturnal percussion outside. Your mother's breathing settles into its regular rhythm, and you, pink and gradually less pink, settle in for another night of growing into something that will eventually disappoint people in more sophisticated ways. 2 weeks down, a lifetime of bamboo-flavored boredom to go. 1 month into your existence, and your fur has finally started arriving like a delivery service that got lost and decided to make the best of it. The pink, embarrassing nakedness of your early days is giving way to something that could generously be called a coat, though it's less coat and more patches of fur that happen to show up at the same time. The pattern emerges slowly, like a Polaroid developing in reverse. Black around where your eyes will eventually be properly visible, creating the iconic panda mask that makes you look perpetually surprised or possibly hungover. Black on your ears, which have finally popped up like tiny satellite dishes tuned to the frequency of disappointment. Black on your legs, as if you're wearing stockings that you'll never be able to remove. The rest fills in white, though white is being charitable. It's more like dingy snow, the kind that's been sitting around too long and picked up questionable stains. Your body has achieved the size and shape of a regulation football, if footballs were covered in patchy fur and had attachment issues. This new bulk comes with new challenges, primarily the challenge of moving it from one place to another. Your first successful crawl happens on a Tuesday, or what would be a Tuesday if pandas understood calendars or cared about the passage of time beyond hungry and not currently hungry. The crawl begins with proper form, belly on the ground, legs positioned in what could charitably be called 4 corners. You push with your front legs, pull with your... No, wait. Push with your back legs, pull with your... This is harder than it looks. After several false starts, and one incident where you somehow manage to move backwards, success is achieved. You travel forward a full body length, which puts you directly into your mother's armpit. It's a warm, musky cave of fur and maternal indifference. Your mother, deep in her afternoon nap, which is indistinguishable from her morning nap or evening nap, doesn't notice your arrival. You've face-planted into her armpit, with all the grace of a drunk person finding their car keys. The smell island, complex. There are notes of bamboo. Everything has notes of bamboo. Earth, and something uniquely panda that defies description. It's not unpleasant, exactly. It's just very, very there. Extracting yourself from the armpit situation requires skills you haven't developed yet, like reverse or dignity. You wiggle, you squirm, you make sounds like a squeaky toy being murdered. Your mother's response is to shift slightly, which wedges you further into the armpit crevasse. This is your life now. You live in an armpit. There are worse fates, probably. 20 minutes later, through a combination of desperate wiggling and your mother rolling over to scratch, you're free. The den spreads before you like a kingdom of approximately 6 square feet. You've seen most of it before, but mobility adds a new dimension to the experience. You can now bump into things with purpose. The den walls become your personal enemy over the next few days. They're always there, always in the way, always solid when you forget they exist. Your depth perception is roughly as developed as your life skills, which is to say, not at all. You approach walls with the confidence of someone who's forgotten that solid objects exist, then act surprised when they don't move out of your way. Your favorite collision is with the smooth rock near the den entrance. It's precisely panda cub-sized, worn smooth by generations of young pandas who've had the exact same interaction. You bump into it, back up, forget it exists, and bump into it again. It's like Groundhog Day, but with more fur and less character development. The sounds from outside grow more intriguing by the day. The birds, which you now know are birds, thanks to occasionally seeing their shadows flit past the den entrance, maintain their schedule of never shutting up. They start before dawn with what sounds like a aggressive garage sale, everyone shouting over everyone else, nobody buying anything. By midday, they've settled into a steady stream of commentary about things that don't concern you but which they feel compelled to share anyway. The wind has developed personality. Sometimes it's gentle, barely disturbing the bamboo chimes. Other times it's angry, throwing itself against the forest like it's trying to prove a point. You're beginning to understand that the wind is just as bored as everything else here, and destruction is its only hobby. Your mother's eating habits become more apparent now that you can see them. She positions herself near the den entrance, where enterprising bamboo grows close enough to grab without the effort of actual foraging. She eats with the mechanical efficiency of someone working a factory job they've had for 30 years. Grab bamboo, strip leaves, chew, swallow, repeat. The sound is hypnotic and horrible, like someone eating celery in a library, forever. Sometimes she pauses in her chewing to look at you, though look implies more interest than she actually shows. It's more like she's confirming you still exist, the way you might glance at a clock to verify time is still passing. Satisfied that you haven't spontaneously combusted or been carried off by ambitious beetles, she returns to the bamboo. You're beginning to understand the unspoken contract of panda motherhood. She keeps you alive, you don't make it too difficult. It's a system that works because neither of you has the energy for anything more complicated. She doesn't pretend to find you fascinating, and you don't pretend her armpit isn't occasionally your entire world. Your own attempts at eating solid food remain purely theoretical. You watch your mother demolish bamboo with the dedication of someone who's found their calling, but your teeth are still just suggestions of what teeth might be. You gum the bamboo leaves she drops, tasting nothing but texture and the faint memory of milk. Everything tastes like preparation for disappointment. The black and white pattern of your fur continues to develop, creating what scientists call disruptive coloration and what you call looking like someone spilled ink on a white carpet. The theory is that your pattern helps you blend into the dappled light of the bamboo forest. The reality is that you look like a printer error that gained consciousness. Movement becomes slightly less catastrophic as the weeks progress. You can now crawl in intentional directions, though your intentions and your abilities remain only loosely connected. Forward is usually forward, though sometimes it's diagonal, and occasionally it's a circle. Your rear legs have figured out they're supposed to help, though they're not entirely clear on how. The result is a gait that looks like someone trying to operate a puppet while reading the instructions in another language. Your tail continues to confuse you. It's back there, doing nothing, contributing nothing, just existing. You've seen your mother's tail, which is equally useless but somehow looks more purposeful because she stopped questioning it. Yours waves around when you crawl like a tiny white flag of surrender, which is appropriate given your success rate at most activities. The den starts to feel smaller, though it hasn't changed size. It's just that you're becoming more aware of its boundaries, more conscious of the world beyond the entrance. Sometimes you crawl to the threshold and peer out at the green confusion beyond. The bamboo forest waits there like a patient teacher prepared for a very slow student. You're not ready for lessons yet, but you're beginning to understand that school is inevitable. Your squeaks have developed into a complex language that nobody else speaks. There's happy, rare, hungry, common, uncomfortable, constant, and a new one that roughly translates to, I'm bored but lack the vocabulary to express it. Your mother responds to all of them with the same strategy: reposition you and hope for the best. As the month draws to a close, you've achieved what could generously be called competence at basic existence. You can see, sort of. You can move, badly. You can express displeasure in multiple tones. Your fur has arrived, making you look like a small bear that got dressed in the dark. These are not impressive achievements, but they're yours. The bamboo forest continues its endless percussion. Your mother continues her endless eating. And you, black and white and barely mobile, continue the important work of growing into something that will eventually be large enough to be professionally boring. 1 month down, only a lifetime of monotony to go. The den entrance has been taunting you for weeks now. A bright portal to a world that sounds consistently annoying but probably contains things that aren't your mother's armpit. You've made several reconnaissance missions to the threshold, peering out with the suspicious glare of someone who's pretty sure the universe is setting them up for disappointment. Today, fueled by the kind of misplaced confidence that comes from successfully crawling in a straight line twice in a row, you decide it's time. Your mother is deep in her mid-morning bamboo meditation, which looks exactly like her early morning bamboo meditation and her late evening bamboo meditation. The only difference is the angle of light hitting her black and white bulk. She's positioned just far enough from the entrance that you'll have to pass her to achieve freedom. This will require stealth, cunning, and skills you absolutely don't possess. The approach begins well. You manage 3 whole body lengths before your back left leg decides it has other plans and sends you into a diagonal trajectory. Course correction involves your front right leg giving up entirely, resulting in a move that could generously be called a combat roll if combat was performed by dizzy potatoes. You end up facing the wrong direction, but through sheer determination and several more accidental rotations, you're back on track. Your mother's ear twitches as you pass. It's the panda equivalent of a raised eyebrow, a gesture that says, "I see what you're doing and have already calculated exactly how it will fail." But she doesn't stop you. This is either maternal trust in your decision-making abilities or, more likely, she knows the world will teach you better lessons than she ever could. The threshold approaches like the edge of the known universe. You've been here before, but always with the safety net of retreat. Now you're committed, or at least as committed as something shaped like a furry bowling ball can be. Your front paws touch the mysterious substance known as outside ground. It feels different from den floor, less compressed, more chaotic. There are things in it, moving things, tiny things that weren't there a second ago. What fresh hell is this? The first full step outside is immediately overwhelming. The light, filtered through the bamboo canopy, is still approximately 700 times brighter than anything you've experienced. Your pupils contract to pinpoints, turning your eyes into angry periods at the end of a very long sentence. The air actually moves, without asking permission. Inside the den, air just existed. Out here, it has opinions. The bamboo forest reveals itself as basically a green prison with terrible lighting and no sense of personal space. Bamboo stalks rise in every direction like the world's most monotonous skyscrapers. They're so close together that adult pandas have to turn sideways to navigate, though you're small enough to fit through gaps that would challenge a well-fed cat. Not that you're going anywhere. You're frozen 3 inches from the den entrance, processing the horrible realization that the world is very, very big. The sounds, which were muffled and almost pleasant from inside, now assault you in high definition. Birds shriek their daily gossip directly into your brain. Insects buzz with the urgency of tiny helicopters late for tiny appointments. The bamboo creaks and groans like a ship made entirely of grass, which is essentially what it island was. And underneath it all, a rustling that suggests everything is moving all the time. Forever. You take another step. The ground squishes slightly, releasing a smell like fermented salad. Your paw sinks into what you'll later learn is called leaf litter, though right now it's just squishy stuff that wasn't in the den. Something moves under your foot. You're not sure what it is, but it's definitely alive and definitely annoyed about being stepped on. You lift your paw like you've touched lava. The thing scurries away, muttering in whatever language tiny ground things speak. That's when the universe decides to introduce you to rain. It starts as a gentle patter on the bamboo leaves above, a sound like timid applause. You look up, which is a mistake. The first drop hits you directly in the eye, the one that just figured out how to focus. It's cold and wet and entirely uncalled for. You blink, confused. The sky, which you'd assumed was solid, is apparently broken and leaking. The patter becomes a steady hiss as more drops find their way through the canopy. They're not aiming for you specifically, but you're taking it personally anyway. Water runs down your newly grown fur in rivulets that tickle and annoy in equal measure. Your beautiful black and white pattern, which you'd just started to feel proud of, now looks like a watercolor painting left in a steam room. You turn to retreat and discover that the den entrance, which was right there a second ago, has somehow moved, or you've moved, or the world has rearranged itself out of spite. The rain increases its intensity, each drop a tiny liquid slap from the universe. Your fur, evolved for many things, but apparently not staying dry, absorbs water like it's been training for this moment its entire life. The journey back to the den, all 6 feet of it, becomes an epic quest. The ground, previously just squishy, is now slippery squishy. Your paws, designed by someone who clearly never consulted with engineers, fail to find purchase. You slip, slide, and perform movements that could be considered dancing if dancing was invented by someone having a medical emergency. Your mother watches your approach with the expression of someone watching a very predictable movie they've seen before. She doesn't move to help. This is your lesson to learn. your mistake to make. The rain has plastered your fur to your body, making you look even smaller and more ridiculous than usual. You're a wet cotton ball with legs, struggling against the cruel combination of gravity and moisture. The final approach involves a move that starts as a crawl, becomes a slide, and ends as a controlled crash into your mother's side. She absorbs the impact without comment, the way a mountain might absorb a gently thrown pebble. You're back in the den, but you're also soaking wet and have brought half the forest floor with you. Leaves stick to your fur like medals of participation in a race you didn't finish. Your mother's expression, if pandas can be said to have expressions beyond mild disinterest, suggests she expected nothing less. This is what the outside world does. It makes you wet and humiliates you. The fact that you needed to discover this for yourself is just part of the panda education system, which consists entirely of first-hand disappointment. You shake yourself, a move you've seen your mother do but haven't quite mastered. Instead of elegantly dispersing water, you mostly just vibrate in place like a broken washing machine. Water flies in every direction, including somehow upward. Your mother, hit by the spray, gives you a look that could charitably be called withering if she could muster that much emotion. The rest of the day is spent in damp reflection. The outside world, it turns out, is exactly as advertised. Large, wet, and full of things that move without permission. The bamboo forest that sounded so intriguing from inside the den is just a collection of very tall grass with delusions of grandeur. The rain, which continues for hours, provides a soundtrack of watery percussion that makes you appreciate the den's relatively dry monotony. Your fur dries slowly, leaving you looking like you've been styled by someone who learned hairdressing from a tornado. Bits of leaf and dirt cling stubbornly to your underside, tiny souvenirs of your failed adventure. You'll be finding forest debris in your fur for days, each piece a reminder that the outside world exists and it's terrible. Sleep comes eventually, bringing dreams of a world that's less vertical and definitely less wet. You dream of flat, dry surfaces that don't move or harbor insects. You dream of light that doesn't assault your retinas and air that stays still. These are impossible dreams, panda fantasies of a world that doesn't exist, but dreams don't care about reality. Tomorrow you'll probably try again, because that's what young pandas do, repeat their mistakes until they become habits. But for tonight, you're content to be a damp, disappointed ball of fur in a den that smells like earth and wet panda. Your mother continues her bamboo processing, the sound now comforting in its monotony. The rain continues its assault on the forest. But you're inside, you're relatively dry, and you're beginning to understand why adult pandas move so slowly. It's not laziness, it's wisdom. 3 months into your tenure as a panda, and it's time for higher education. Welcome to Bamboo Academy, where the curriculum consists of one subject. The teachers don't care if you pass, and graduation means death from old age. Your mother, who serves as both faculty and cafeteria, prepares to introduce you to the dietary monotony that will define the rest of your existence. The lesson begins with a demonstration. Your mother positions herself in her usual spot close enough to the den for retreat, far enough from anything interesting to avoid stimulation. She reaches for a bamboo stalk with the practiced motion of someone who's performed this exact movement approximately 7 million times. The selection process is brief. Is it bamboo? Yes. Is it within reach? Yes. Congratulations, it's lunch. She grips the stalk between her pseudo-thumb and fingers, an evolutionary compromise that says, we needed opposable thumbs, but didn't want to commit. The bamboo bends but doesn't break, requiring her to apply the kind of torque usually reserved for opening stubborn jar lids. With a crack like nature's knuckles popping, she tears off a section and begins the ritual. First, the leaves are stripped with a motion that would be graceful if performed by anything other than 300 pounds of bear pretending to be vegetarian. She runs the stalk through her paws like the world's least enthusiastic corn on the cob eater. The leaves fall in a green cascade that you'll later learn to call breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The chewing begins. It's a sound that defies description while simultaneously being impossible to ignore. Imagine someone eating celery inside a cardboard box while riding a wooden roller coaster. Her jaw moves with metronomic precision, each chew a testament to the fact that pandas have evolved specifically to process the least nutritious plant food available. It's like evolving to exclusively eat packing peanuts. You watch this performance with the fascination of someone witnessing a magic trick performed very slowly, with no payoff. Your mother consumes bamboo with the dedication of a meditation guru who's achieved enlightenment and discovered it tastes like wood. She doesn't eat because she enjoys it. She eats because the alternative is not eating. And pandas are nothing if not practical about their limited options. Your turn arrives when she drops a partially chewed leaf near your feet. It lands with the wet slap of opportunity you didn't ask for. You approach it the way you approach everything, with suspicion and poor coordination. The leaf is bigger than your head, which isn't saying much, but it's still an intimidating first course in your educational meal plan. The first taste, island, memorable. If disappointment had a flavor profile, it would be bamboo. It's not actively bad, which would at least be interesting. It's aggressively mediocre, like water that's trying too hard. Your baby teeth, sharp and new and optimistic, bite down on fiber that has all the give of dental floss. The taste floods your mouth, green, bitter, with subtle notes of, why are we eating this? Your jaw, approximately the size and strength of a clothespin, begins to work. Chew, chew, chew. Nothing happens. The bamboo leaf maintains its structural integrity with the determination of building material, which is essentially what it island. You're trying to eat construction supplies. Your jaw muscles, such as they are, begin to burn with the kind of fatigue usually associated with marathon running, except you've been chewing for 30 seconds. Your mother glances over, notes your struggle, and returns to her own meal. There's no sympathy in panda parenting, only example. She demolishes another stalk, processing plant matter with the efficiency of industrial machinery. The message is clear. This is your life now. Get used to it or starve. Those are the options. You manage to break down a small corner of the leaf through sheer persistence and the kind of determination usually reserved for escape attempts. The pulp slides down your throat like liquid regret. It tastes like grass someone forgot to flavor. Your stomach, still accustomed to milk, receives this new input with the confusion of a computer trying to run software it's not equipped for. 10 minutes in, and you've consumed approximately 1 square inch of leaf. At this rate, it will take you 17 hours to eat a single meal. Your mother has processed what appears to be half a bamboo grove in the same time. The mathematics of panda existence become clear. You need to eat constantly just to maintain basic life functions. It's like being permanently behind on homework that tastes terrible. The exhaustion hits suddenly. Chewing, it turns out, is work. Hard work. Your entire face hurts from the effort of breaking down plant matter that seems designed by nature specifically to resist consumption. You need a break. You need a nap. You need a different species digestive system. You curl up next to your mother's bulk, which radiates warmth and the smell of processed bamboo. She doesn't stop eating, just adjusts slightly to accommodate your presence. The sound of her chewing becomes a lullaby of low expectations. Crunch, 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 forever. 20 minutes later, you wake with renewed determination and immediately regret it. The bamboo hasn't gotten softer in your absence. If anything, it seems to have developed a personal vendetta against your teeth. You try a different section of leaf. It tastes exactly the same, but in a slightly different shade of disappointing. Your mother, perhaps taking pity, or more likely just dropping things, lets fall a younger shoot. These are the panda equivalent of candy, softer, slightly sweeter, still essentially wood, but wood that's trying. You attack it with enthusiasm that lasts exactly as long as it takes to realize better bamboo is still bamboo. It's like being excited about different flavors of cardboard. The variety in bamboo, you're learning, is purely academic. There's old bamboo, tough and bitter, young bamboo, slightly less tough, still bitter, bamboo leaves, fibrous and bitter, and bamboo shoots, soft and bitter with delusions of sweetness. It's a buffet where every dish is a variation on disappointment. Your technique improves marginally. You learn to use your developing molars, which are flatter and better suited for grinding. You discover that holding the bamboo at certain angles makes it slightly easier to process. These are the innovations that pass for progress in panda society. You're basically learning to fail more efficiently. By mid-afternoon, you've successfully consumed what might generously be called a meal if meals were measured in microscopic portions. Your mother has eaten approximately 30 pounds of bamboo in the same period. She's a processing plant with fur, converting cellulose into panda through sheer bloody-minded persistence. The lesson continues into evening because panda education never really stops. It just pauses for naps. You learn that eating bamboo isn't just about nutrition, it's about accepting your lot in life. Every chew is a small surrender to the fact that you're a carnivore's digestive system trapped in an herbivore's lifestyle. Your body wants meat. Your environment offers salad. Your solution is to eat massive quantities of salad while looking vaguely dissatisfied. As darkness falls, you're no closer to enjoying bamboo than when you started. But you're beginning to understand that enjoyment isn't the point. Survival is the point. And pandas survive by doing one thing with remarkable inefficiency: eating the worst food nature has to offer, constantly, forever. Your mother settles in for her evening meal, which is indistinguishable from her morning and afternoon meals. You curl up against her, your jaw sore from your educational efforts. Tomorrow you'll try again, because what else is there to do? The bamboo will still be there, eternally available and eternally disappointing. And you'll eat it, because you're a panda, and pandas don't get other options. The forest settles into its nighttime routine of creaks and whispers. Your stomach processes its new plant-based input with the efficiency of a broken recycling center. And somewhere in your developing brain, you begin to understand why adult pandas always look so resigned. It's not sadness. It's the expression of someone who's accepted that every meal for the rest of their life will taste like homework. Your relationship with gravity has been, until now, relatively straightforward. You stay on the ground. Gravity keeps you there. Everyone's happy. But at 4 months old, you've noticed your mother occasionally disappears upward, returning later with leaves that taste marginally different from ground leaves. Spoiler, they don't. Today, you've decided to challenge the fundamental forces of the universe. This will go exactly as well as expected. The first tree presents itself like a final exam you haven't studied for. It's a modest fir, maybe 30 feet tall, with bark that looks deceptively grippable. You approach it with the confidence of someone who's never failed at something they've never tried. Your mother watches from her eating position, which is also her sitting position and her existing position. Her expression suggests she's already calculated exactly how this will end. Your first attempt begins with what you consider planning, but what observers would call staring blankly at bark. The tree has texture, certainly. There are ridges and valleys, places where tiny insects have made homes, and where sap has created sticky obstacles. It smells like resin and vertical challenge. You place one paw against it experimentally. It doesn't move. This is already going better than expected. The physics of climbing, as you understand them, involve moving up. The specifics remain fuzzy, but you're confident the details will work themselves out. You reach up with both front paws, achieving a position that could generously be called standing, if standing didn't typically require balance. Your back legs, suddenly responsible for all your weight, voice their objection through immediate muscle failure. You last approximately 3 seconds before gravity reasserts its dominance. The fall is short but educational. The ground, it turns out, is exactly as hard as it looks. You land in a heap of black and white confusion, dignity scattered in several directions. A beetle, disturbed by your impact, gives you a look of insect disapproval before relocating to somewhere less prone to falling pandas. Your mother continues chewing. The sound now seems deliberately louder, as if she's adding percussion to your failure. But you're nothing if not persistent, mainly because you're not smart enough to quit. The tree awaits, unmoved by your first attempt. Round 2 begins with modified strategy. Less thinking, more doing. This time you try momentum. If you can't climb slowly, perhaps speed is the answer. You back up 3 whole feet, which at your size is basically a running start from another time zone. The charge begins with something approaching coordination. Your legs pump with the fury of someone who's just discovered they have legs. The tree approaches at what you consider blazing speed. The collision is spectacular in its mediocrity. You hit the tree like a pillow thrown by someone with good intentions but poor aim. Your claws, still developing, and about as sharp as suggestions, fail to find purchase. You slide down the bark like the world's saddest firefighter, leaving a trail of dignity and possibly some fur. But something magical happens on attempt number 7. Attempts 3 through 6 were variations on the theme of gravity wins. Your claws catch properly. Your legs, through sheer accident, find positions that approximate climbing. You're moving up, actually up. The ground recedes by almost 18 inches. You're a mountaineer. You're defying nature. You're falling again. This fall is different. You've achieved enough height for airtime, that brief moment where you're neither climbing nor landed, just a small bear-shaped object discovering physics in real time. The impact is proportionally more impressive. You make a sound like a squeaky toy having an existential crisis. Your mother glances over, confirms you're still alive, and returns to her bamboo. The solution, when it comes, arrives through desperation rather than inspiration. Instead of trying to climb like you imagine climbing should work, you develop what will become known as the hug and hope technique. You wrap all 4 limbs around the tree like you're trying to squeeze secrets from it. Then, through a combination of shuffling, grunting, and what could charitably be called shimmying, you move up. It's not pretty. If climbing were an art form, this would be finger painting with your elbows. But it works. You're gaining altitude 1 painful inch at a time. Your claws dig into bark with the desperation of someone who's just realized down is much farther than up. The tree sways slightly under your weight, which isn't much but is distributed in all the wrong places. 2 feet up, you make the mistake of looking down. The ground, which was right there a second ago, has developed delusions of distance. Your grip tightens until bark starts coming off in your paws. A bird lands on a branch above you, observes your technique, and leaves with what can only be described as second-hand embarrassment. Even the wildlife is judging you. Your mother, perhaps recognizing a teaching moment or just bored with ground-level bamboo, demonstrates proper climbing technique. She approaches a larger tree with the casual confidence of someone who's forgotten being bad at things. Her climb is not graceful. Nothing that weighs 300 pounds and is shaped like a beanbag can be graceful, but it's effective. She uses a bulldozer approach, powering up through sheer determination and grip strength that could open jars from across the room. Bark flies off in chunks. Small branches surrender rather than resist. She climbs like climbing owes her money. It's not pretty, but she's 30 feet up before you've processed what happened. Then she's coming back down, backwards, because pandas don't believe in turning around. Inspired or shamed, it's hard to tell the difference. You resume your own ascent. 3 feet up now, a personal record. Your muscles burn with the fire of ambition exceeding ability. Your claws ache from gripping bark like it might run away. But you're climbing. Sort of. If you don't think about it too hard, that's when you learn about branches. They stick out from trees at angles designed by nature specifically to poke pandas in uncomfortable places. Your first branch encounter is with a dead stub that introduces itself to your ribs. The surprise causes a brief loss of concentration, which causes a brief loss of grip, which causes a longer than brief fall. This time you land on your back, looking up at the tree that defeated you. The canopy above filters light into patterns that would be beautiful if you weren't associating them with failure. Your mother descends from her tree with the controlled fall that passes for grace in panda culture. She lands near you with a thump that suggests gravity is more of a guideline than a law. The day's climbing lessons continue with diminishing returns. You perfect several techniques: the panic grip, clinging to bark while forgetting why you're there, the reverse progress, sliding down faster than you climbed up, and the tree hug of defeat, admitting failure while still attached to the tree. Each attempt adds to your growing collection of bruises and bark samples embedded in your fur. By late afternoon, you've achieved a maximum altitude of 4 feet, 3 inches. It's not impressive unless you consider that you started the day unable to differentiate up from forward. Your claws are sore, your legs shake with exhaustion, and you've developed a personal vendetta against anything vertical. But you've also learned something valuable. Climbing is possible, just barely, if you're willing to accept that dignity is optional. The ground has never felt more welcoming. You sprawl on it like you're trying to become two-dimensional, spreading your weight across as much horizontal surface as possible. Your mother settles beside you, returning to her bamboo with the satisfaction of someone who's completed their daily exercise by accident. Tomorrow you'll try again, because pandas are nothing if not stubborn about repeating their mistakes. The trees will still be vertical, gravity will still be unforgiving, and you'll still be shaped like a bag of bowling balls with fur. But you'll climb, inch by painful inch, because that's what pandas do. We take the hardest possible approach to everything and then act surprised when it's difficult. For now, though, you're content to remain firmly ground-bound, nursing your bruised pride and actual bruises. The birds above continue their commentary on your performance. The trees sway in the wind, taunting you with their height. And you lie there, a small failure in fur, dreaming of a world where everything important happens at ground level. It's a good dream. Too bad you're a panda. 6 months into your existence, and your mother decides it's time for the most terrifying lesson yet. Other pandas exist. This revelation comes not through gentle introduction or careful preparation, but through the standard panda teaching method of, here's a situation, deal with it. You're following her through the bamboo, practicing your newly acquired walking skills, generous description, when she stops. Not the usual, this bamboo looks edible, stop, but a full-body freeze that says, incoming social interaction. Through the green prison bars of bamboo stalks, you see it. Another panda. It's like looking in a funhouse mirror that reflects your future bigger, rounder, and somehow even less motivated than your mother. This panda is engaged in the traditional panda activity of sitting and eating, but it's doing it in your bamboo grove. The audacity would be breathtaking if any of you had the energy for strong emotions. Your mother performs what passes for panda communication, a grunt that sounds like furniture being rearranged in a distant room. The other panda responds with its own vocalization, equally furniture-like but in a different room. You're witnessing the height of panda eloquence, and it sounds like an IKEA warehouse having a conversation with itself. The standoff begins. 2 adult pandas, each weighing enough to be legally considered terrain features, stare at each other with the intensity of people trying to remember where they've met before. You huddle behind your mother's bulk, peering around her like she's a furry mountain with opinions. The tension is palpable, if tension could be palpable at the speed of molasses. Then comes your introduction to panda social dynamics. Aggressive indifference. Both adults begin eating bamboo while pointedly ignoring each other. It's a competition of who can care less, performed at the speed of continental drift. Your mother munches her bamboo with deliberate nonchalance. The intruder responds by eating slightly louder. This is panda warfare, and it's exactly as exciting as it sounds. That's when you notice the other young panda. It's been there the whole time, camouflaged by its own ability to remain perfectly still and look vaguely like a rock with fur. It's roughly your size, which means it's also roughly your age, which means it's also roughly as confused about this situation as you are. You engage in the traditional greeting of young pandas everywhere, mutual staring. The staring contest begins without official rules or clear victory conditions. You stare. It stares. Time loses meaning. Somewhere in the distance, evolution weeps at what it has created. Your eyes begin to water, but blinking would be admitting defeat. The other cub seems equally committed to this optical endurance test. Minutes pass, or possibly hours. It's hard to tell when nothing is happening with such intensity. Finally, the other cub makes a move. It shifts slightly. A gesture that could mean anything from hello to I'm uncomfortable to I forgot I have a body. You interpret this as an invitation for interaction and respond with your own movement. A sort of shuffle wobble that would be approaching if you had any clear sense of direction. What happens next can only be described as the world's slowest collision. You move toward each other with all the speed and grace of tectonic plates. The bamboo between you provides a convenient excuse for the journey to take several minutes. By the time you actually meet, you've both forgotten why you started moving in the first place. First contact is made through the traditional panda handshake, bumping into each other and looking surprised about it. The other cub smells like a variation on your own theme: bamboo, earth, and mild confusion. You perform the greeting ritual of young pandas, sniffing each other with the thoroughness of quality control inspectors who aren't sure what they're looking for. Communication attempts begin. You vocalize your standard sound, which has evolved from rubber duck with asthma to broken furniture being dragged across a floor. The other cub responds with its own noise, remarkably similar but in a different key. You're having a conversation in a language neither of you speaks, about topics neither of you understands. It's like watching 2 dial-up modems trying to fall in love. Then comes the play fighting. though play and fighting are both generous descriptions. It's more like aggressive hugging with occasional tooth involvement. You rear up on your hind legs, achieving a height of almost 2 feet, and promptly fall over. The other cub, inspired by your failure, attempts the same move with identical results. You're now both on the ground, which at least puts you on equal footing. The wrestling match that follows breaks several laws of physics, mainly those involving motion. You grab the other cub in what might be a fighting move or possibly just an attempt to remain upright. It responds by forgetting it has limbs. You roll around together like a yin-yang symbol having a seizure, neither of you entirely sure who's winning or what winning would even look like. Your mother and the other adult continue their bamboo-munching standoff, occasionally glancing at your amateur wrestling match with the interest of people checking a clock. Adult pandas, you're learning, have transcended the need for physical conflict. They've evolved to fight with indifference, wound with apathy, and achieve victory through superior not caring. The play session reveals uncomfortable truths about panda personal space. It doesn't exist. The other cub has no concept of boundaries, physical or otherwise. It climbs on you, over you, and occasionally through you in ways that defy basic geometry. You respond by doing the same, creating a writhing mass of black and white confusion that occasionally remembers it's 2 separate animals. 20 minutes in, exhaustion hits like a bamboo stalk to the face. Playing is hard work when you're shaped like a bowling ball with fur. You both collapse in a heap, panting with the intensity of marathon runners who've just discovered they entered the wrong race. The other cub's expression mirrors your own, a combination of "what just happened" and "can we nap now?" But the social lesson continues. The adults, having established dominance through competitive bamboo consumption, decide to acknowledge each other's cubs. The stranger adult waddles over to inspect you with the enthusiasm of someone checking their mail for bills. You're sniffed, deemed acceptable or at least not worth the effort of rejecting, and dismissed. Your mother performs the same ritual with the other cub. Her inspection is thorough but disinterested, like she's reading ingredients on a cereal box she has no intention of buying. The other cub passes whatever minimal standards pandas maintain for other pandas' offspring, which seems to be exists and isn't actively on fire. As the encounter winds down, you've learned several important lessons about panda society. First, personal space is a myth perpetuated by animals with better social skills. Second, communication is optional if everyone's equally confused. Third, conflict resolution happens at the speed of glacier formation and with about as much excitement. Fourth, and most importantly, other pandas are just as boring as you are, which is oddly comforting. The 2 family units part ways with all the ceremony of strangers leaving an elevator. The adults waddle off in opposite directions, maintaining the fiction that this bamboo grove is big enough for that kind of territorial behavior. You follow your mother, but not before exchanging one last look with the other cub. It's a look that says, "That was weird. Let's never do this again, and see you tomorrow all at once." As you disappear into the bamboo, you process your first real social interaction. It was awkward, exhausting, and accomplished nothing of measurable value. In other words, it was perfect panda socializing. You've taken your first steps into the larger world of panda society and discovered it's just as disappointing as your small corner of it. The bamboo closes around you like a green curtain, separating you from your new acquaintance who you'll probably meet again, probably won't recognize, and probably will interact with in exactly the same confused manner. This is the social life that awaits you. Occasional collisions with other pandas who are equally committed to not caring about anything, including each other. Your mother finds a new bamboo patch and settles in for her afternoon meal. You curl up nearby, socially exhausted from your minimal social exertion. Tomorrow you'll go back to eating bamboo in solitude, which now seems less like loneliness and more like a lifestyle choice. Other pandas exist, you've confirmed it, but existing near them is complicated and tiring, and you're already tired from regular existing. The forest returns to its usual soundtrack of creaking bamboo and opinionated birds. Your mother munches with renewed appreciation for solitude, and you drift off to sleep, dreaming of a world where all social interactions could be replaced with mutual napping. It's a good dream, and surprisingly achievable if you're a panda. We need to discuss something. Not because it's pleasant or dignified, but because it's approximately 40% of panda life, and pretending otherwise would be like describing water while ignoring wetness. At 6 months old, you're about to discover that even basic biological functions come with a degree of difficulty when you're a panda. Welcome to Advanced Bathroom Studies, where the curriculum is unforgiving and everyone's watching. It starts innocently enough. You've been processing bamboo with increasing efficiency, which is like saying you've gotten better at failing slowly. What goes in must come out. And what comes out island? Substantial. Your digestive system, designed for meat but repurposed for processing plant fiber, works with all the efficiency of a broken recycling plant. You're essentially a furry tube that converts bamboo into disappointment, with predictable results. Your first real bathroom situation happens during what you thought was a routine waddle through the bamboo. The urge hits suddenly, like remembering you left the stove on but more immediate. You freeze mid-step, one paw raised, looking like a statue dedicated to poor timing. Your mother, several yards ahead, continues walking because panda parenting doesn't include bathroom supervision after the first few weeks. The mechanics seem simple enough. Find spot, assume position, execute function. But you're a panda, which means even simple things require interpretation. You've seen your mother handle this situation with what passes for panda grace: a quick squat, efficient delivery, minimal fuss. How hard could it be? The position is the first challenge. Squatting requires balance, and balance requires coordination. And coordination is something you've heard about, but never personally experienced. Your first attempt results in a pose that could generously be called yoga, if yoga was invented by someone with inner ear problems. You're tilted at an angle that defies both comfort and physics, held up mostly by determination and one bamboo stalk you're using as a crutch. Then comes the revelation that this isn't just about waste management, it's about communication. Your mother, noticing your struggle because the bamboo you're leaning on is the one she was about to eat, decides it's time for advanced education. She demonstrates something that will haunt your dreams: scent marking. Pandas, it turns out, don't just poop. They create olfactory newsletters, chemical postcards that say things like, "I was here," and "This is my bamboo," and "Tuesday, partly cloudy, ate bamboo." Your mother backs up to a tree with the precision of someone parallel parking. What happens next involves contortions that seem medically inadvisable. She's doing a handstand against a tree while pooping. This is apparently normal. The scent lands precisely where intended, at nose height for other pandas who might wander by. It's a calling card, a signature, a biological graffiti tag that says, "This territory has already disappointed someone else." She completes the maneuver with a satisfied grunt and returns to eating, leaving you to process what you've just witnessed. Your own attempt at scent marking goes exactly as expected. First, the tree selection. You choose what looks like a sturdy specimen, unaware that looks sturdy and is sturdy are different concepts. Backing up to it requires spatial awareness you don't possess. You miss the tree entirely on your first approach, marking only the air and your own dignity. The second attempt makes contact, but at the wrong angle. Instead of a handstand, you achieve something closer to a headstand, which is neither the goal nor remotely comfortable. The resulting mark is less, "I own this territory," and more, "Someone had an accident here." You've successfully marked yourself, the ground, and somehow your own back foot, but the tree remains unscathed. Your mother watches this performance with the expression of someone whose expectations were low but somehow not low enough. She doesn't offer to help because this is your journey of discovery. Also because she's eating and nothing interrupts bamboo time. The judgment in her eyes is palpable but not personal. All pandas go through this. Most get better, some don't. Evolution shrugs and continues. The third attempt introduces you to the politics of poop placement. Another panda has already marked this tree, their scent, a complex message you can't decode, but which probably says something about bamboo quality and recent weather. You're supposed to mark over it, under it, or beside it, depending on social hierarchies you don't understand. You choose what seems like a neutral spot and execute a maneuver that's part handstand, part interpretive dance, all disaster. Success, when it comes, is relative. You've managed to leave a mark on a tree at roughly the right height. It's not artistic or particularly informative, but it exists. You've joined the grand conversation of panda territory marking, even if your contribution is the equivalent of a toddler's crayon drawing in an art gallery. But the learning continues. Different positions communicate different things. A high mark suggests dominance, or possibly just height. A low mark indicates submission, or maybe just poor aim. Multiple marks on the same tree create a message board of panda politics. You're learning a language where grammar is replaced by gymnastics and punctuation involves trees. The other aspect nobody mentions is frequency. Pandas poop. A lot. Processing 30 pounds of bamboo daily means producing approximately 20 pounds of processed bamboo. That's not a typo. You're a mobile fertilizer factory, converting plant matter into plant food with astonishing inefficiency. Your bathroom breaks aren't breaks, they're a career. You develop a routine, or what passes for routine, when every attempt is a new adventure in failure. Morning marks are placed with the optimism of a new day. Afternoon deposits carry the weight of accumulated bamboo. Evening offerings are performed with the exhaustion of someone who spent all day being a panda. Each one is an opportunity to fail in new and creative ways. The social aspect becomes clear when you encounter another cub's marking. It smells like your own, but different, like reading someone else's diary written in a language you're still learning. You're supposed to respond, but how? Overmarking seems aggressive. Undermarking feels submissive. Marking beside it might be friendly, or might be declaring war. Panda politics are complex when conducted entirely through bathroom habits. Your technique improves marginally. You can now execute a partial handstand that only mostly covers you in your own waist. Your aim has evolved from non-existent to suggestive. You've learned to read the basic messages in other pandas' marks. Young male, ate the good bamboo, Tuesday. It's not poetry, but it's communication. The gymnastics involved becomes second nature, which is disturbing when you think about it. You're routinely doing handstands against trees to poop at nose height. This is normal. This is your life. Other animals just squat and move on, but not pandas. No, you had to evolve complex scent-marking behaviors that require the flexibility of a yoga instructor and the shamelessness of someone who's given up on dignity. By the end of the week, you've established a small territory through strategic bathroom placement. It's not much, maybe 3 trees and a rock, but it's yours. Other pandas passing through will smell your marks and know that this particular patch of bamboo disappointment belongs to a young panda still learning the ropes. Or they'll ignore it entirely because that's also valid panda behavior. The bathroom situation, you've learned, is never just about the bathroom. It's about communication, territory, politics, and gymnastics. It's about accepting that even the most basic biological functions require complicated execution when you're a panda. It's about finding dignity in undignified circumstances, or at least pretending dignity never mattered in the first place. Your mother continues her own marking routine with the efficiency of someone who's been doing biological gymnastics for years. She doesn't make it look easy because nothing pandas do looks easy, but she makes it look possible, which is really all you can ask for. You follow her lead, leaving your own trail of olfactory breadcrumbs through the forest. Tomorrow you'll wake up and do it all again. Eat bamboo, process bamboo, mark territory with processed bamboo. It's the circle of life, Panda edition, where every step involves more effort than seems reasonable, and the end result is always some variation of disappointment. But it's your disappointment, marked and claimed and defended through bathroom gymnastics, that would make circus performers weep. The bamboo forest accepts your contributions with the same indifference it shows everything. Trees get marked, messages get left, territories get claimed, and life continues its slow march toward more of the same. You've mastered the bathroom situation as much as any panda masters anything poorly, but with consistency. And in panda culture, that's basically a PhD. 1 year old, and your mother has begun the traditional panda parenting technique of gradual abandonment. It starts subtly. She wanders slightly farther during bamboo foraging, takes longer naps in different clearings, looks through you rather than at you with increasing frequency. You're witnessing the slow-motion ghosting that passes for weaning in panda culture, and like everything else in your life, it's happening at the speed of continental drift. The first night alone doesn't announce itself. Your mother simply doesn't return from her evening bamboo hunt. You wait in the usual spot, a depression in the earth, shaped by months of your combined weight. The forest darkens with its typical lack of ceremony. She's probably just finding better bamboo, you think. She'll be back, you hope. She's definitely coming back, you lie. Night in the bamboo forest is a different country with stricter immigration policies. The familiar creaking of bamboo transforms into something sinister. Every sound, previously background noise, becomes a potential threat. That rustling could be wind, could be another panda, could be something that considers pandas a walking buffet. Your imagination, fueled by isolation and poor night vision, creates dangers that evolution never bothered to invent. The first solo bamboo selection happens by necessity rather than choice. You're hungry, mother's not here, and the bamboo isn't going to eat itself, though given how little nutrition it provides, it might as well. You approach a grove with the confidence of someone who's watched an expert without paying attention to the important parts. The bamboo looks like bamboo. That's about as far as your expertise extends. Your mother, you realize in retrospect, had a system. She'd test stalks with subtle paw pressure, sniff leaves with the dedication of a wine sommelier who's given up on life, select specific shoots based on criteria you never bothered to learn. Your system involves biting things and hoping for the best. It's less efficient but more adventurous, if adventure is defined as eating things that taste worse than usual. The first stalk you select has the texture of rope and the flavor of regret. Not the young, tender shoots your mother occasionally shared. This is bamboo that's been around long enough to develop opinions. You chew with determination that would be admirable if applied to anything useful. 20 minutes later, you've processed 3 leaves and questioned all your life choices. The night sounds intensify. Something screams in the distance, bird, probably, or maybe a mammal having the worst day of its life. Closer by, twigs snap with the weight of something moving. Could be a deer, could be a tiger. Could be your imagination manifesting physically because you've been alone for 3 hours and sanity is already packing its bags. Sleep, when you attempt it, is a joke told badly. Every position feels exposed. Against a tree? Too vertical. In the open? Too visible. Under some bamboo? Too rustly. You settle for a compromise position that protects nothing but makes you feel proactive about your inevitable doom. Your eyes close. Your ears remain at DEFCON 1. The horror podcast of Night Sounds continues. Act 1, something large moving through undergrowth. Act 2, unidentifiable screech, probably bird, possibly demon. Act 3, silence so complete it's somehow worse than noise. You doze fitfully, jerking awake every time a leaf dares to fall with slightly more enthusiasm than usual. Dawn arrives like a sarcastic friend who's been watching you panic all night. The terrifying sounds reveal their sources. That death scream was indeed a bird, specifically one the size of your paw with delusions of grandeur. The large thing moving through undergrowth was another panda, visible now, munching bamboo with the threatening posture of someone who forgot you exist. The deadly silence was just regular silence, plus anxiety. Embarrassed by your own survival, you return to the serious business of finding edible bamboo. Your second attempt goes better. The stalk is merely disappointing rather than actively offensive. You strip leaves with technique that could generously be called developing. Some of them even make it to your mouth instead of the general vicinity of your face. By midday, you've consumed what might constitute a meal if meals were measured in effort rather than nutrition. Your jaw aches from processing subpar bamboo. Your stomach gurgles with the sound of digestive disapproval. But you're alive. You're independent-ish, and you've learned that the worst parts of bamboo are still technically edible. Your mother returns that evening like nothing happened. She settles into her usual spot and begins eating with the consistency of someone who's never heard of variety. You want to tell her about your night, about the terror and the bad bamboo, and the bird that sounded like death. But pandas don't do emotional reunions. She glances at you, notes you're still alive, and returns to chewing. The message is clear. You survived one night. Don't get cocky. The pattern continues over the following weeks. Some nights she's there, a black and white mountain of security. Other nights you're alone with your anxiety and increasingly poor bamboo choices. You learn to differentiate between probably won't kill you and definitely won't nourish you, bamboo. It's a fine line, and you dance on it with all the grace of a bear on a tightrope. Solo foraging becomes less catastrophic through pure repetition. You develop preferences. Morning bamboo from the eastern grove, slightly less bitter. Afternoon shoots from near the stream, marginally more tender. Evening leaves from anywhere because hunger beats standards. Your palate, such as it is, evolves from everything tastes bad to everything tastes bad but in slightly different ways. The night terrors diminish, but never fully disappear. You learn the forest's nighttime vocabulary. The rustle that means wind versus the rustle that means something moving. The scream that means bird being dramatic versus the scream that means something being eaten. The silence. That means all is well versus the silence that means predator nearby. You're becoming fluent in paranoia. 3 months into semi-independence, and you can survive entire weeks alone. Survive, being the operative word, you're not thriving, you're not happy, you're just converting bamboo into panda at the minimum viable rate. Your mother appears occasionally, like a supervisor checking on an employee she's already decided to fire but hasn't filled out the paperwork yet. Your bamboo selection improves to mostly edible, which is the panda equivalent of a Michelin star. You've mapped the local groves, identifying which ones provide sustenance versus which ones provide fiber-based disappointment. You have favorite spots, backup spots, and emergency spots for when both favorites and backups are occupied by pandas with seniority. The pride in successfully identifying edible bamboo is embarrassing but real. You munch your selections with the satisfaction of someone who's achieved the bare minimum through maximum effort. This is independence, panda style, doing badly on your own instead of doing badly with supervision. It's not much, but it's yours. Your mother's visits decrease to weekly, then monthly. When she does appear, it's with the casual indifference of someone checking on a houseplant they're pretty sure is plastic. You're growing, slowly, feeding yourself, badly, and surviving, barely. In panda terms, you're exceeding expectations. The forest becomes familiar in its hostility. You know which trees drop branches without warning, which paths flood during rain, which clearings host insects with attitude problems. You're not mastering your environment so much as developing a mutual non-aggression pact. The forest won't actively kill you if you don't actively challenge it. It's a fair deal. One morning, you wake to find your mother hasn't visited in over a month. The realization hits with all the emotional impact of noticing your bamboo is slightly more fibrous than yesterday. You're independent now, or independent-ish, which is the most any panda can claim. You're a solo act in a show nobody's watching, performing the daily drama of bamboo consumption for an audience of birds who've seen it all before. You select your morning bamboo with the careful consideration of someone who has no other options. It tastes like every other morning's bamboo, disappointing but familiar. You chew with the rhythm of routine, process with the efficiency of habit. This is your life now, solo bamboo consumption, punctuated by sleep and occasional terror. You're 1 year old, you're independent-ish, and you're exactly as thrilled about it as expected. Which is to say, not at all. But you're a panda. Low expectations are your birthright. Your bamboo patch, the one you've been cultivating a relationship with for 3 months, has developed commitment issues. Specifically, it's committed to 3 other pandas who apparently didn't get the memo about your exclusive arrangement. You discover this on a Tuesday morning, or what would be Tuesday if pandas understood calendars when you arrive for breakfast to find it already occupied. The interloper is a male roughly your age, which means he's roughly your size, which means this conflict will be resolved through the panda equivalent of a strongly worded letter. He's positioned himself in the prime eating spot, the place where the youngest, tenderest shoots grow. The audacity would be breathtaking if either of you had the energy for strong emotions. You announce your presence with a vocalization that's evolved from broken furniture to furniture being assembled by someone who's lost the instructions. It's a sound that conveys displeasure, territorial rights, and general existential dissatisfaction in one efficient grunt. The other panda responds with his own vocalization, remarkably similar, but somehow more irritating. You're having a property dispute in a language neither of you fully speaks. The stare-down begins. 2 pandas, each convinced of their righteous claim to bamboo that belongs to neither of them, locked in optical combat. You sit. He sits. The bamboo continues growing, blissfully unaware it's the subject of a turf war being fought at the speed of erosion. Minutes pass, or possibly hours. Time loses, meaning when your primary activity is aggressive sitting. Your sitting technique has improved since cubhood. You've learned to position your weight for maximum immobility, to settle your bulk in ways that suggest you've grown roots. It's competitive sitting, and you're playing to win, or at least to not lose, or at minimum to make losing take so long that everyone forgets what you're competing for. The other panda shifts slightly. Is it surrender? Aggression? Hemorrhoids? The ambiguity of panda body language makes interpretation impossible. You respond with your own shift, equally meaningless but performed with conviction. You're having a conversation in micro-movements, each gesture pregnant with meaning that neither of you understands. Then, innovation strikes. You begin eating bamboo while maintaining eye contact. It's a power move that says, I'm so unconcerned by your presence that I can perform basic life functions without breaking our staring contest. The bamboo tastes like victory, which is to say, it tastes exactly like regular bamboo, but you're attributing emotional significance to plant fiber. Your opponent, not to be outdone, begins his own meal. Now you're both eating while staring, turning sustenance into statement. The crunching becomes competitive. Who can chew louder, more deliberately, with greater indifference to the other's presence? You're weaponizing lunch, and it's exactly as ridiculous as it sounds. The territory war ends not with a treaty, but with a collective shrug. The bamboo grove is big enough for 4 pandas who are committed to ignoring each other. You've established dominance by establishing nothing, defended territory by not defending it, won a war that nobody fought. It's the most panda victory possible, achieving nothing through maximum effort. Your corner of the grove becomes home through sheer repetition. The other pandas become fixtures, like trees that eat and occasionally move. You develop favorite stalks, backup stalks, and emergency stalks for when favorites and backups are occupied by pandas you're not acknowledging. The system works because it doesn't work, but nobody cares enough to fix it. Months pass. New pandas occasionally appear, assess the complicated non-dynamics, and either join the ignorance club or find easier territories. You're part of a community defined by its commitment to not being a community. It's antisocial socialism, collective individualism, together alone. The bamboo grows, indifferent to the complex social negotiations happening in its midst. You eat with the satisfaction of someone who's defended their territory without actually defending anything. The other pandas eat with equal satisfaction, having won the same non-victory. Everyone's a winner when the prize is continuing to do exactly what you were doing before. This is territory ownership, panda style, a complex system of doing nothing systematically. You've claimed your space through strategic sitting, defended it through competitive eating, and maintained it through Olympic-level ignoring. It's not glamorous, but it's yours, or theirs, or nobody's. The important thing is the bamboo still tastes like disappointment, and you've got a reliable place to be disappointed. In panda real estate, that's location, location, location. 2 years old, and your body decides to complicate your already marginal existence with hormones. They arrive like unwanted house guests, who not only refuse to leave, but insist on rearranging all your furniture. Suddenly, the bamboo forest isn't just full of food that disappoints you, it's full of female pandas who smell interesting for approximately 72 hours per year. The math is not in your favor. The first indication that something has changed comes during your routine morning bamboo selection. A scent wafts through the forest, different from the usual potpourri of earth, vegetation, and panda bathroom habits. This smell island, intriguing, compelling, confusing. It's like someone played a note you've never heard but somehow recognize. Your brain, operating on evolutionary autopilot, suggests you should investigate. Your body, operating on 2 years of doing as little as possible, questions this suggestion. You follow the scent with all the stealth of a bowling ball rolling through a library. Bamboo stalks announce your passage with enthusiastic crackling. Birds evacuate trees with disgusted chirps. A butterfly judges your technique before finding somewhere quieter to exist. You're a 200-pound advertisement for your own presence, approaching what you hope is a female and not just a very interesting mushroom. She's there, positioned in a clearing like she's waiting for something, which she is, technically, though her expression suggests she'd rather be waiting for anything else. She's slightly older, significantly more coordinated, and magnificently disinterested in your approach. But she's also in estrus, which means for the next 3 days, she's theoretically available. Theoretically. Your opening move is a vocalization that aims for suave, but lands somewhere between broken tuba and furniture assembly accident. It's your mating call, practiced never and executed worse. She responds by continuing to eat bamboo, which could mean anything from "I'm playing hard to get" to "I haven't noticed you exist" to "I've noticed and wish I hadn't." The courtship ritual, as you understand it from absolutely no preparation, involves displaying your fitness as a mate. You decide to show off your climbing skills, forgetting that your climbing skills peaked at barely adequate and have been declining since. The tree you choose looks sturdy, which is good, and very tall, which is bad, and directly in her line of sight, which is either good or bad depending on how this goes. The ascent begins with more confidence than coordination. Your hug and hope technique, refined over months of minimal practice, gets you approximately 6 feet up before muscle memory runs out and improvisation begins. She glances up from her bamboo, acknowledging your effort with the enthusiasm of someone checking the time. 20 minutes into this gastronomic standoff, a third panda arrives. Female, older, with the no-nonsense waddle of someone who's dealt with enough male posturing to last several lifetimes. She surveys the situation, 2 younger males eating angrily at each other, and makes the executive decision to ignore you both. She settles into her own eating spot with the confidence of seniority. Now it's a 3-way territory dispute, except one party hasn't acknowledged there's a dispute. You and the other male exchange glances that say, "Are we still fighting?" And, "I don't know, are we?" The female continues eating with the serene indifference of someone who's transcended caring about property rights. Her presence has changed the dynamic from confrontation to awkward meal. The 4th panda arrives like a punchline to a joke that's already gone too long. Another female, younger, who takes one look at the complicated social geometry and decides to just start eating. Now you're all sitting in the same bamboo grove, claiming the same territory through the revolutionary strategy of pretending the others don't exist. It's mutually assured ignorance. The slowest chase scene in nature begins when you decide to assert dominance through movement. You stand, a process that takes 30 seconds and involves several false starts. The other male, interpreting this as aggression, also stands. You're now both vertical, which is about as threatening as pandas get. The females continue eating because they're not paid enough to care about male ego. You take a step forward. He takes a step forward. You're closing distance at the breakneck speed of continental drift. Another step. Another. You're now close enough to smell each other's bamboo breath, which is redundant because all pandas have bamboo breath. The tension is palpable, if tension could be measured in geological time. The chase begins when you both decide to walk briskly in the same direction. It's less pursuit and more parallel walking with intent. 10 feet covered in what feels like 10 minutes. You're both breathing heavily, not from exertion but from the effort of moving faster than usual. The females watch with the interest of people observing paint dry. Victory, when it comes, is measured in who gets tired first. The other male, perhaps older or perhaps just more realistic about the value of this specific bamboo patch, slows to a stop. He's not admitting defeat so much as acknowledging that walking is hard and there's bamboo literally everywhere. You've won by default, the only way pandas ever win anything. You return to your eating spot with the swagger of someone who's defended their territory through aggressive apathy. The other male finds a spot just far enough away to maintain plausible deniability about the conflict. The females continue their meal, having witnessed the entire battle without looking up once. Territory has been established, sort of. The compromise, reached without discussion or acknowledgement, is elegantly simple. Everyone eats the same bamboo, while pretending they're eating different bamboo. You maintain your claim to the northwest corner, which is identical to all other corners. The other male takes the southeast, equally unremarkable. The females occupy wherever they want because seniority has privileges, and one of them is not caring about imaginary boundaries. Eye contact becomes the new frontier of passive aggression. You perfect the art of eating bamboo while looking at other pandas without actually seeing them. It's aggressive ignorance, competitive indifference. You're in the same space but different universes, separated by the vast distances of not acknowledging each other's existence. The routine establishes itself over the following days. Morning arrivals are staggered to minimize interaction. You show up first, establishing presence. Other male arrives second, pretends you're scenery. Older female appears whenever, doesn't notice either of you. Younger female comes last, equally oblivious. You're a dysfunctional family that's not a family, sharing a table while eating alone. Occasionally, territories overlap. You reach for the same bamboo stalk. The conflict resolution involves both of you pretending you wanted different stalks all along. It's gaslighting yourself for the sake of avoiding confrontation, and it works because pandas have evolved to avoid effort in all its forms, including conflict. A week into this arrangement, and you've developed a complex social structure based entirely on not having a social structure. Everyone knows everyone else's schedule, preferences, and boundaries, all while maintaining the fiction that they're solitary creatures who've never met. It's like being roommates who communicate solely through passive-aggressive notes, except the notes are eating patterns and nobody can read. 10 feet up, and you realize you've made several critical errors. First, climbing is harder than you remembered. Second, you remembered it being hard. Third, she's still eating bamboo with the dedication of someone who's found their calling, and it isn't watching you struggle with gravity. But you're committed now, or at least too tired to climb down. At 15 feet, you pause to catch your breath and reassess. She's definitely watching now, though her expression suggests it's the same way people watch traffic accidents, horrified but unable to look away. You decide this is progress and attempt to look casual while clinging to a tree like your life depends on it, which it increasingly does. The dismount is where things go from embarrassing to legendary failure. Your plan, such as it is, involves climbing down backwards with dignity. The tree's plan involves gravity and your poor grip strength. The compromise is you falling the last 8 feet while making sounds that could charitably be called vocalizations, but are more accurately described as panic squeaks. You land in a heap of black and white confusion, dignity scattered in several directions. She watches your recovery attempt with the detached interest of a scientist observing a failed experiment. You stand, shake off the leaves and pride stuck to your fur, and approach her with the confidence of someone who definitely meant to do that. She returns to her bamboo. The message is clear. Your climbing display has impressed her about as much as your opening vocalization, which is to say not at all. But she hasn't left, which in Panda, courtship counts as encouragement. You settle nearby and begin eating bamboo too, because if you can't impress her with athletics, maybe competitive eating will work. The next 2 days pass in a blur of failed attempts at romance. You try everything in your limited repertoire. More vocalizations, each worse than the last. Scent marking at impressive heights, mostly impressing yourself. And what you consider seductive bamboo eating, which looks exactly like regular bamboo eating but you're thinking romantic thoughts. Other males arrive, drawn by the same scent that brought you here. The competition is fierce, if fierce can be applied to pandas doing anything. There's standing male, who seems to think height is everything. Loud male, whose vocalizations make yours sound melodic by comparison. And persistent male, who's been here since before you arrived, and will probably be here after everyone else gives up. The female watches this parade of mediocrity with the patience of someone who's seen it all before and wasn't impressed the first time. Occasionally she'll move to a new eating spot, causing a slow-motion stampede as all the males reposition themselves to be casually nearby. It's like musical chairs played by creatures who don't understand music, chairs, or urgency. Your attempts at courtship evolve from actively bad to passively present. You've learned that female pandas respond better to being ignored than being pursued, which would be confusing if you had the energy for confusion. So you eat bamboo near her while pretending she's not there, which is apparently more attractive than acknowledging her existence. Day 3 arrives with the urgency of a deadline everyone's aware of but nobody wants to acknowledge. Her fertility window is closing, and none of you have made any progress beyond "she tolerates our presence." The competition intensifies, which for pandas means everyone eats bamboo slightly more aggressively while maintaining the fiction of indifference. Then, In a twist that surprises everyone, including herself, she chooses persistent male. Not because he's impressive or charming or even particularly notable, but because he's there, and she's tired, and biology doesn't care about romance. They wander off together with all the passion of co-workers heading to a mandatory meeting. You watch them leave with a mixture of disappointment and relief. Disappointment because you've failed at something you're biologically programmed to want. Relief because it looked exhausting, and you could use a nap. The other rejected males disperse with similar expressions, already forgetting why they came here in the first place. The aftermath of your first mating season is anticlimactic, which is appropriate since the climax was also anticlimactic. You return to your territory, your bamboo, your routine of comfortable boredom. The hormones settle down, apologizing for the inconvenience. Your brain, no longer clouded by biological imperatives, questions what all the fuss was about. You've learned important lessons about panda romance. It's brief, it's disappointing, and it requires more effort than anything else in panda life. The female you pursued is already gone, back to her own territory, probably forgetting the whole experience. Persistent male is somewhere celebrating his victory by eating bamboo, which looks exactly like his defeat would have looked. Romance, you conclude, is just mutual tolerance with biological benefits. The female tolerated the male's presence. The males tolerated rejection. Everyone tolerated the absurdity of the situation. And somewhere in that tolerance, the species continues. Not because it's beautiful or meaningful, but because the alternative is extinction, and that seems like even more work. Your next mating season is a year away, which gives you plenty of time to forget these lessons and repeat the same mistakes. But for now, you're content to be single, eating bamboo in solitude, free from the complications of romance. The forest returns to its normal soundtrack of creaking wood and opinionated birds. Your hormones return to hibernation, and you return to the important business of converting bamboo into disappointment, alone and uninterrupted. It's not romantic, but then again, neither was the alternative. Year 3 brings another mating season, and with it, the poor decision-making that characterizes panda romance. This time, through a combination of persistence, proximity, and her standards being particularly low that day, you find yourself in the unprecedented position of being chosen. The female, a contemporary, who looks as thrilled about this as someone attending their own tax audit, has decided you'll do. The bar was low, but congratulations, you've tripped over it. The courtship ritual, now that you're actually participating rather than just failing at it, is even more awkward than observation suggested. You circle each other like confused planets that have forgotten how gravity works. She moves left, you move right. She stops, you continue. You stop, she's already moved. It's a dance choreographed by committee where nobody spoke the same language. She makes a sound that could mean, I'm ready, or I'm resigned, or I stepped on something sharp. Panda vocalizations don't come with subtitles, so you interpret it optimistically. You respond with your own sound, which you hope conveys masculine readiness, but probably just announces your digestive status. Romance is hard when your vocabulary consists entirely of furniture-moving sounds. The positioning phase begins, and it's immediately clear that nobody involved has thought this through. You're both shaped like beanbags filled with bamboo and poor decisions. She's facing one direction, you're facing another, and somehow you're supposed to make this work. It's like trying to solve a geometry problem where all the angles are wrong and the shapes don't fit. Your first attempt at mounting is best described as ambitious. You rear up on your hind legs, achieving a height that would be impressive if she wasn't moving. By the time you come down, she's relocated 3 feet to the left, leaving you hugging air and questioning physics. She looks back with an expression that says, "Are you new here?" Which, technically, you are. Attempt 2 involves better timing but worse execution. You manage to make contact, but in entirely the wrong configuration. You're perpendicular when you should be parallel, or possibly the other way around. Neither of you seems entirely sure how this is supposed to work. It's like trying to assemble furniture from a company that forgot to include instructions and made all the pieces circular. She shifts, trying to help or possibly escape, it's hard to tell. You adjust, overcorrect, and end up in a position that defies both biology and comfort. Something definitely pulled a muscle, though neither of you is sure whose muscle or where it was supposed to be. The romance of the moment, such as it was, dissolves into logistical problem-solving. Finally, through trial and error, and what can only be described as divine intervention, you achieve the correct configuration. The actual act lasts approximately 8 seconds, which is somehow both too long and not nearly long enough. It's awkward, uncomfortable, and involves sounds that will haunt your dreams. Not the good kind of haunting. The dismount is where things go from awkward to actively unfortunate. Gravity, which has been waiting patiently for its moment, reasserts itself with enthusiasm. You fall sideways, she stumbles forward, and you both end up in a tangle of fur and regret. A nearby bird witnesses the whole thing and flies away, probably to tell other birds about the worst thing it's ever seen. Post-mating behavior in pandas involves immediate mutual indifference, which is convenient since you were already practicing that. She shakes herself off, gives you a look that clearly says, "Never speak of this," and returns to eating bamboo. You do the same, though from a respectful distance. The transition from intimate to strangers is instantaneous and absolute. You sit there, processing what just happened while pretending it didn't. Your body feels like you've been in a fight with gravity and lost. Your dignity is somewhere in the underbrush, keeping company with your coordination. But you've successfully mated, technically, which puts you ahead of 90% of male pandas who just sat around looking hopeful. She finishes her bamboo and leaves without ceremony. No goodbye, no, "I'll call you." No acknowledgement that you just shared what passes for an intimate moment in panda society. She walks away with the same enthusiasm she brought to the encounter. None whatsoever. You watch her go, already forgetting what she looks like. The journey back to your territory is a meditation on disappointment. You'd built up mating in your mind as something significant. The one-time pandas don't just eat bamboo and sleep. Instead, it was eating bamboo and sleeping with a brief, uncomfortable interruption. Your genes have been passed on, possibly, but at what cost? Other males you pass seem to sense what happened. There's a mixture of jealousy and sympathy in their glances, the look of creatures who want what you had, but also saw how you got it. You're a winner in a game where victory looks exactly like defeat, but with more pulled muscles. Your territory welcomes you back with its usual indifference. The bamboo is where you left it, which is everywhere. Your favorite sleeping spot remains unoccupied. Nothing has changed except you're now technically successful at reproduction, which feels like being successful at failing with extra steps. The soreness lasts 3 days. Every movement reminds you of your romantic endeavor, though romantic is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. You develop new respect for pandas who mate multiple times per season. They're either very determined or very forgetful, and you're not sure which is worse. Life returns to its normal routine with disturbing speed. Wake, eat bamboo, nap, eat bamboo, sleep. The mating season already feels like a fever dream, something that happened to someone else in a parallel universe where pandas make even worse decisions than usual. Your body has already forgotten its brief moment of purpose. You occasionally think about the female, though think implies more mental effort than you're actually exerting. She's out there somewhere, possibly pregnant, possibly not, definitely eating bamboo. You might be a father in a few months, or you might have just had the world's most awkward exercise in futility. Panda biology is mysterious enough that both options seem equally likely. The forest continues its daily opera of birds and wind and creaking bamboo. Your life continues its daily marathon of minimal effort and maximum bamboo consumption. The mating season fades into memory, filed away with other disappointing experiences like that time I ate bark by mistake and the day it rained for 6 hours. Was it worth it? From a species survival standpoint, probably. From a personal satisfaction standpoint, absolutely not. But you're a panda, and personal satisfaction isn't in your vocabulary. Neither is vocabulary, come to think of it. You did what pandas do, the bare minimum, badly, with maximum awkwardness. Next year you'll probably try again, because hormones are convincing liars, and memory is merciful. You'll forget the discomfort, the embarrassment, the pulled muscles and wounded dignity. You'll remember only that you succeeded, sort of, and that might be enough to make you attempt it again. But for now, you're content to be celibate, solitary, and stationary. You eat your bamboo with no one to impress, sleep without worrying about snoring, and exist without the complication of other pandas' expectations. It's not exciting, but neither was the alternative. At least disappointment is familiar. You've been practicing it your whole life. The sun sets on another day in your boring panda existence. Tomorrow will bring more bamboo, more napping, more of the same comfortable. Nothing that defines your life. And that's fine. You've tried excitement. It pulled a muscle. 3 years old, and you've achieved what could generously be called peak panda performance. It's not impressive by any objective measure, but objectivity requires perspective, and perspective requires caring, neither of which you possess. You are now a professional bamboo processor, a title that comes with no benefits, no recognition, and no salary except continued existence. Congratulations on reaching the top of a very small mountain. Your daily routine has crystallized into something so predictable that birds set their internal clocks by your movements. Wake at dawn, not because dawn is special, but because your bladder has opinions. First bamboo selection of the day, chosen with the careful consideration of someone who knows all options taste like regret. Eat for 2 hours, nap for 1, eat for 3. Wander aimlessly for 30 minutes. Eat for 2 more, sleep, repeat until death. The refinement in your palate would be impressive if refinement meant ability to distinguish between different types of disappointment. You can now identify 17 distinct varieties of bamboo, each with its own unique flavor profile of sadness. There's morning bamboo, bitter with hints of dew. Afternoon bamboo, tough with notes of resignation. Evening bamboo, chewy with undertones of existential crisis. And emergency bamboo tastes like last resort, which it is. Your knowledge extends beyond mere taste. You know which bamboo grows where, when it's best to eat it. Never, but some nevers are better than others. And how much effort each type requires. The young shoots near the stream, tender but require walking. The established grove near your sleeping spot, convenient but tastes like architectural material. The hillside bamboo, actually decent, but involves climbing, so it might as well not exist. Your jaw muscles have developed to the point where you could theoretically crack walnuts, crush stones, or perform other impressive feats of bite strength. Instead, you use this power to process endless plant fiber with the mechanical efficiency of a very sad factory. Chew, 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 swallow. Chew, 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 swallow. It's meditation for creatures too lazy to achieve enlightenment. The favorite spot you've claimed through sheer stubborn presence is a monument to panda real estate values. It's convenient, unremarkable, and defensible through apathy. A depression in the earth shaped by your body, surrounded by adequate bamboo and featuring a tree for back scratching. Other pandas occasionally pass through, note your presence, and keep moving because fighting over territory requires effort, and you're all conserving energy for digestion. Your position in the local ecosystem has stabilized at animated furniture. Birds land on you without fear, using your back as a rest stop between more interesting destinations. Small mammals run past you like you're a furry boulder. Insects traverse your body with the casual indifference of hikers crossing a fallen log. You're not a predator, not prey, not even particularly alive by most standards. You're a feature of the landscape that occasionally moves and processes bamboo. A typical day begins with what you've labeled quality control, though quality is a generous term for what you're controlling. You sample bamboo from different stalks, searching for the one that tastes least like disappointment. This process takes an hour and yields no results because disappointment is the only flavor bamboo comes in, but routine is routine. The morning feeding session is where you showcase your professional skills. Grip, strip, chew, swallow, repeat. Your technique is flawless in its mediocrity. You can strip leaves from a stalk in one smooth motion that would be graceful if performed by anything other than a 250-pound bear pretending to be vegetarian. You can process a full stalk in 20 minutes, extracting maximum disappointment with minimum effort. Midday brings the professional nap, capitalize because it's a serious business. You've identified the optimal napping position, on your back, legs akimbo, dignity scattered, optimal duration, 45 minutes to 2 hours depending on bamboo quality, and optimal location, wherever you finished eating. Your napping form is perfect. Immediate unconsciousness, snoring that harmonizes with the forest, drool that waters the plants. Afternoon feeding requires location selection. Do you stay in your spot and eat familiar disappointment? Or venture 10 whole yards to potentially different disappointment? The decision-making process takes longer than the journey would, so usually you stay put. The bamboo here is terrible, but it's your terrible, and there's comfort in familiar disappointment. Your wandering phase, generously called patrol, but more accurately described as moving because sitting gets boring, takes you through the same route you've traveled for 2 years. Past the rock that looks like a smaller rock. Around the tree you've been meaning to climb but never will. Through the grove where that embarrassing thing happened that one time. Back to where you started, having accomplished nothing but movement. Evening bamboo is selected with the resignation of someone clocking into a job they hate but can't quit. The sun sets, painting the forest in shades of gold that you don't appreciate because beauty doesn't increase bamboo's nutritional value. You eat mechanically, professionally, with the dedication of someone who's given up on finding meaning but continues through momentum. Other wildlife has learned your patterns and adjusted accordingly. The birds know you're harmless and boring. The squirrels use you as a landmark. Turn left at the eating panda. If it's napping, you've gone too far. The deer have discovered you won't chase them from your bamboo because that would require getting up. You're the neighborhood fixture everyone ignores, like a mailbox that eats. Your professional status comes with certain perks. You know which bamboo to avoid, the stuff that causes 3 days of digestive regret. Which trees have the best bark for back scratching, the pine near the stream, except no substitutes. And which spots flood during rain, everywhere you want to be. This knowledge would be valuable if you did anything with it besides continue existing. The technical aspects of bamboo processing have become second nature. You can eat while half asleep, while fully asleep if you're lying on the right bamboo, while thinking about absolutely nothing, which is your default state. Your molars work independently of conscious thought, grinding plant matter into slightly smaller plant matter that your digestive system will struggle with for the next 12 hours. 3 years of practice have made you an expert in your field, where the field is doing the bare minimum to stay alive, and expertise is still alive. You're a master of mediocrity, a professional at processing disappointment, a virtuoso of vegetation consumption. These aren't skills anyone values, including you, but they're yours. As night falls and you settle into your sleeping spot, worn smooth by hundreds of identical nights, you achieve the panda equivalent of job satisfaction. You're full of bamboo, tired from eating bamboo, and tomorrow there will be more bamboo. Your professional goals are met daily because you've set the bar so low it's basically underground. You are 3 years old, a professional bamboo processor, and exactly as excited about your career as expected, which is to say, not at all. But excitement requires energy, and you're saving that for digestion. Tomorrow you'll wake up and do it all again, processing bamboo with the mechanical precision of someone who's forgotten there are other options. Because you're not just a panda anymore. You're a professional panda, and that means being professionally disappointing at a slightly higher level. It's not much, but it's a living. Barely. The rainy season arrives like a relative who wasn't invited but shows up anyway and refuses to leave. It starts with a drizzle that you initially ignore because acknowledging weather requires effort. But the drizzle becomes rain. The rain becomes downpour. And suddenly you're a 250-pound sponge with legs, discovering that dignity is water-soluble. Your fur, which you'd assumed was waterproof because why wouldn't it be, turns out to have the water resistance of a paper towel. The first real storm catches you mid-bamboo, and within minutes you've absorbed roughly your body weight in water. You're not just wet, you're restructured. Your normally fluffy appearance deflates into something that looks like a bear-shaped mop someone left outside. Walking in rain is where things get educational. The ground, previously solid and reliable, transforms into a substance that can't decide if it wants to be liquid or solid, so compromises by being terrible. Your first step into mud results in a sound like a plunger finding its purpose. Your paw disappears into brown soup that might have been a path yesterday but is now just ambitious pudding. The extraction process is where comedy writes itself. Pulling your paw from mud requires leverage, but leverage requires your other paws to be stable, which they're not because they're also in mud. You become a four-legged physics problem with no solution. Each step forward requires 3 preparatory movements and results in maybe 6 inches of progress. You're moonwalking through molasses, except backwards and without rhythm. Then comes your introduction to mudslides, nature's way of saying, you thought walking was hard before? The slope you've navigated hundreds of times, that gentle incline between your sleeping spot and eating spot, becomes a water park designed by someone who hates pandas. Your first attempt at descent starts controlled and ends with you sliding past your intended destination like a very large, very confused bobsled. The landing is soft, which is the only positive thing about landing in mud. You're now wearing approximately half the hillside and have discovered 17 new muscles, all of which hurt. Standing up requires strategy, determination, and acceptance that you'll fall at least twice more before achieving verticality. Other animals watch your performance with expressions ranging from sympathy to barely concealed laughter. Rainy season lasts 3 months, during which you perfect the art of being miserably wet. You develop favorite rain spots, under the thick canopy where it's only mostly wet, least favorite rain spots, anywhere with a slope, and emergency rain spots, that hollow log that floods, but at least floods predictably. Your fur never fully dries, developing a permanent dampness that makes you smell like a gym bag someone forgot about. But just when you've adapted to being semi-aquatic, summer arrives with its own practical joke: heat. Pandas, you discover, are designed for many things, but temperature regulation isn't one of them. Your thick fur, useful for approximately 2 weeks in winter, becomes a portable sauna. You're wearing a winter coat in summer, and evolution didn't include a zipper. The first hot day is educational in all the wrong ways. You wake up warm, eat bamboo while sweating, a sensation you didn't know was possible, and by midday you're searching for relief with the desperation of someone who's just discovered suffering. Your tongue hangs out like a broken drawer. Your fur radiates heat like a very inefficient furnace. You're a walking greenhouse effect. The stream becomes your new religion. The first time you lower yourself into the cool water, it's a revelation. You're buoyant, which is surprising given your density. You're cool, which is miraculous given your fur situation. You're also blocking the stream, creating a panda dam that redirects water in directions water wasn't planning to go, but that's the stream's problem. Your stream positioning evolves into an art form. The ideal pose involves maximum water contact with minimum effort. On your back, legs up, head barely above water, dignity completely submerged. You look like a rejected pool float, something inflatable that gave up on life. But you're cool, and that's all that matters. Style points are for animals that aren't slowly cooking in their own fur. The local wildlife adjusts to your new aquatic habits. Fish learn to navigate around the bear-shaped obstacle that appears daily in their commute. Birds use your exposed belly as a perch, which would be insulting if you had the energy for emotions. One particularly bold turtle climbs onto your stomach and suns itself, making you a floating ecosystem of mutual laziness. Hot weather also reveals the cruelty of bamboo placement. The good bamboo, the tender shoots you actually enjoy, grows in sunny spots. Eating means leaving shade, which means choosing between hunger and heat stroke. You develop a system: dawn feeding, hot but tolerable; extended stream sitting, cool but boring; dusk feeding, still hot but desperate; night recovery, praying for autumn. Then autumn arrives, exactly 1 day after you've perfected hot weather survival. The temperature drops, the rain returns but gentler, and suddenly your fur has purpose again. You're almost comfortable, which in panda terms is like winning the lottery. You can eat without sweating, sleep without swimming, exist without suffering. It lasts approximately 3 weeks. Winter announces itself with frost that turns bamboo into popsicles. Your first bite of frozen bamboo is like chewing glass that judges you. It crunches wrong, tastes worse, and requires twice the effort for half the nutrition. But your fur, that portable sauna that tortured you all summer, finally earns its keep. You're insulated, wrapped in your own personal climate control set permanently to almost warm enough. Cold weather sleeping requires adjustments. Your summer position, spread eagle, maximum surface area, transitions to winter formation, furry ball, minimum exposure. You discover that your own body heat, trapped by fur and fat, creates a microclimate of adequacy, not comfort. Comfort is for animals with better life choices, but adequacy. The snow, when it comes, is just rain with commitment issues. It's cold, it's wet, but at least it's quiet. The forest under snow sounds different, muffled, like nature's wearing socks. Your footprints create the world's most boring art installation. Panda was here, went there, accomplished nothing. The snow preserves your routine in frozen documentation that melts before anyone can judge it. Winter bamboo requires dedication. You have to dig through snow to find it, brush off ice to grip it, chew through frozen fibers that fight back. It's like eating frozen disappointment, which is somehow worse than room temperature disappointment. But you persist because the alternative is not eating, and you're too invested in existence to quit now. Each season brings its own unique misery. Spring means rain and mud. Summer means heat and suffering. Autumn means false hope. Winter means cold and frozen food. You adapt to each with the resignation of someone who's accepted that comfort is a myth, and weather is just nature's way of keeping things interesting in the worst possible way. But through it all, you endure. Wet, you endure. Hot, you endure. Cold, muddy, frost-covered, stream-logged, you endure. Because you're a panda, and enduring discomfort is basically your species' Olympic sport. You're not winning any medals, but you're participating, and in panda terms, that's already overachieving. The weather continues its practical jokes, and you continue falling for them. Tomorrow will bring some new meteorological torture, and you'll adapt with the grace of someone falling downstairs in slow motion. But you'll survive, because that's what pandas do. Survive things badly but consistently. It's not inspiring, but it's reliable, like disappointment and bamboo. And in your world, reliability is the closest thing to success you're likely to achieve. In the bamboo forest, you're a 4-year-old panda sharing space with neighbors who've made objectively better life choices. Your existence is less nature documentary and more dysfunctional apartment complex where everyone's too exhausted to complain. Your daily tormentor is a golden, snub-nosed monkey who's transformed dawn screaming into performance art. His alarm clock shrieks. Imagine teaching a brass section to have anxiety. Ensure you're awake but not quite annoyed enough to relocate. His family occupies the canopy above your eating spot, dropping debris like passive-aggressive upstairs neighbors. They're occasionally useful, predator warnings you're too slow to use, but mostly serve as reminders that other species evolved to be interesting while you specialized in sitting. The red pandas are worse because they're everything you're not. Efficient, agile, marketable. One particularly competent female lives above your sleeping spot, processing bamboo with grace while you chew like you're doing homework. She's evolution's way of showing it had options and chose to make you this. The deer are straightforward thieves who raid your bamboo while you nap, often, or get distracted, always. Chasing them would require acceleration and carrying both beyond your capabilities. You offer token resistance, a half grunt that says, "I see you, but I'm too tired to stop you." They correctly interpret this as permission. Birds treat your broad back as public transportation, arriving without invitation and leaving without thanks. One ambitious thrush has designated your head as its personal concert venue, delivering skull-penetrating songs during afternoon naps. A spider built a web between your ears. You're not just part of the ecosystem, you're providing affordable housing. Then there's the snake you've spent 2 years pretending doesn't exist. Living in a log near your water source, it suns itself exactly where you need to walk. Your relationship is built on mutual ignoring the most mature relationship you have. At 4 years old, existential weight finally registers. Mid-chew on your 10,000th bamboo stalk, you realize this is it. Eat, sleep, bathroom gymnastics, repeat until death. The crisis spawns dangerous thoughts about travel, 3 steps before realizing it requires planning. Dietary variety, bark tastes worse than bamboo, berries are suspicious, one mushroom gave you philosophy, opinions, and routine changes. Sleeping somewhere new meant insects with attitudes. A younger panda's arrival deepens your crisis. His energy and optimism physically hurt to witness. You respond to his play invitations with looks that convey accumulated wisdom. Everything disappoints, effort makes it worse. Learn this now. Acceptance arrives like fog. You develop philosophy, really just elaborate laziness justification. Excitement wastes digestive energy. Adventure is discomfort with marketing. Happiness is absence of active suffering. achieved through strategic napping. The crisis resolves through exhaustion. You can't maintain existential dread and process 30 pounds of daily bamboo. Something must go, and bamboo is non-negotiable. Tomorrow you'll wake and repeat, not from desire, but because alternatives require decisions. Your midlife crisis ends with a bamboo-scented burp admission that this is as good as it gets. And honestly, that's fine. You're too tired to want more anyway. 8 years old, and your body has become a symphony of complaints performed by an orchestra that's given up. Your joints creak like old floorboards in a house nobody's maintained, each movement accompanied by sounds that would concern a doctor if pandas believed in healthcare. Standing up is now a 3-act play: contemplation, false starts, and eventual success punctuated by groaning that harmonizes with the bamboo's creaking. Climbing, once merely difficult, has evolved into controlled catastrophe. The ascent takes twice as long because every grip must be tested, retested, and apologized to. Your hug and hope technique has modified to hug and pray, with extended prayer sessions at each foot of elevation. The descent isn't climbing down, it's controlled, falling with brief moments of gripping things. Gravity waits patiently for your inevitable surrender, and you both know who's winning this war. Young pandas are everywhere suddenly, or maybe you're just noticing them more because they irritate you by existing so loudly. They bound when walking would suffice. They play when sleeping is available. They vocalize enthusiasm about bamboo quality when everyone knows it all tastes like disappointment. Their energy is a personal insult to your commitment to conservation. Territory disputes, once involving slow-motion chases and competitive eating, now resolve through exhausted staring. You and another senior panda can communicate entire property negotiations through eye contact that says, "This seems like effort," and "Agreed. Let's both pretend we won." Victory goes to whoever stays conscious longest. Naps have evolved from frequent breaks to your primary state of being. You're either napping, about to nap, or recovering from a nap. The transitions blur until consciousness becomes the exception rather than the rule. Sometimes you wake up having forgotten you were asleep. Sometimes you fall asleep having forgotten you were awake. Bamboo chewing has transcended mere eating to become meditation through necessity. Each bite is deliberate, partly because your jaw demands respect, mostly because hurrying serves no purpose when you have nowhere to be. You've achieved enlightenment through repetitive plant processing, though enlightenment tastes suspiciously like bamboo. You've witnessed 6 rainy seasons, and the primary lesson is, they're all wet. Young pandas ask about storm patterns like there's a secret beyond. Waterfalls, everything gets damp, dignity dissolves. You could explain the subtle differences between Year 2's torrential misery and Year 5's persistent drizzle. But why? Wet is wet. Disappointment is disappointment. Wisdom is knowing both are inevitable. The art of energy conservation has reached levels that would impress physicists if they studied professional laziness. Every movement is calculated for minimum effort. The reach that snags bamboo without shifting weight, the position that allows eating while mostly sleeping, the scratch that addresses multiple itches. You're not lazy, you're thermodynamically efficient. Your digestive expertise is encyclopedic and useless. You know exactly which bamboo causes 3-day gas, the stuff near the North Stream, which leads to immediate regret, hillside variety, and which produces the least offensive results, doesn't exist. You eat the gassy bamboo anyway because avoiding it would require remembering to avoid it, and your memory is busy forgetting other things. Weather prediction has become involuntary. Your knees are barometers, your lower back a humidity gauge. Rain in 2 days? Your left hip knows. Cold snap coming? Your shoulders have filed a complaint. You're a living weather station that nobody consults because your only forecast is probably uncomfortable. Young pandas occasionally approach, mistaking age for wisdom. They want guidance about territory, mating, bamboo selection. You have nothing to offer except the truth. It's all disappointing, but you get used to it. They leave unsatisfied, which is perfect training for their future. The pretend sleeping technique has achieved art form status. Eyes closed at the first sign of social interaction, breathing regulated to suggest deep slumber, occasional snores for authenticity. You can maintain fake sleep through earthquakes, territorial disputes, and once, memorably, a tree falling nearby. Anything to avoid conversation about feelings or bamboo quality. 10 years old, and you've graduated to nature's retirement home without the bingo nights. Your favorite bamboo patch, the one you've defended through competitive apathy for 6 years, now requires a journey that might as well be to another continent. 20 yards feels like 20 miles when every step is negotiated with joints that have filed formal complaints. The new philosophy is simple: convenient over quality. That bamboo within reaching distance? Perfect. Is it good bamboo? Irrelevant. Is it bamboo? Barely. But it's here, and you're here, and moving is theoretical at best. You've transcended standards and arrived at pure practicality. Other pandas pass by with the respectful distance reserved for the elderly and potentially deceased. They nod if you're awake, step around you if you're not. Your landscape now, a black and white boulder that occasionally processes vegetation. The young ones whisper about the old panda who's been in that spot so long. Moss is considering him as real estate. Your territory marks have evolved from "this is mine" to "I was here once, probably." The scent is more suggestion than declaration, a whisper of former ownership that nobody contests because who wants to fight furniture? Your handstands against trees now look like leaning with purpose. The message is clear enough. Too tired to argue. Seasons blur together like the world's most boring smoothie. Spring rain, summer heat, autumn false hope, winter cold. They're just different flavors of the same experience. You've stopped noticing transitions, stopped caring about differences. It's all just weather between naps. Memory has become selective, focusing on important things like which positions hurt least and where you left that half-eaten bamboo. Yesterday might have been last year. Last year might have been yesterday. Time is just something that happens while you're processing plant fiber. One morning, getting up seems optional in a way it never has before. Not difficult you've dealt with difficult for years. Optional. The sun is rising, the bamboo awaits, and you're considering whether either matters enough to move. Your body, a democracy of aching parts, votes unanimously for stillness. The bamboo forest continues its wind chime symphony, the same percussion of hollow stalks you've heard for a decade. It should be annoying, this constant noise, but it's become the soundtrack to existence. The forest breathes, you breathe. Somehow everyone keeps breathing without trying. Sun filters through leaves in patterns you've seen 10,000 times, each one slightly different, each one exactly the same. The light is warm on your fur, which has gone from black and white to black and grey, dignity having evacuated along with pigmentation. You're a faded photograph of your former self, which wasn't that impressive to begin with. You reach for one last bamboo stalk, more from habit than hunger. The chewing is automatic, meditative, pointless. It tastes like every other piece of bamboo you've eaten, like disappointment aged to acceptance. Your jaw works with the rhythm of a lifetime, processing plant into panda one last time. Lying down in your favorite spot requires no effort because you never really got up. The earth knows your shape, has been expecting this. Your body settles into the depression it created through years of persistent presence. Everything fits, everything's familiar, everything's ending with the same lack of drama that defined the middle. The forest accepts you back with the indifference you've shown it for a decade. No ceremony, no acknowledgement, just the cycle continuing. You're returning nutrients borrowed 10 years ago when you flopped into existence like a pink mistake. The loan is due, payment is painless. Somewhere in the forest, probably, definitely, a young panda is being born, pink and blind and stupid with possibility. It will grow, eat disappointment, make terrible choices, and end up here, returning what it borrowed. The cycle continues not because it's beautiful, but because it's reliable, like bamboo and rain and joint pain. The last thought isn't profound. Wouldn't it be nice if bamboo tasted better? But it doesn't. Never has. Never will. And that's oddly perfect. A boring life, ending with a boring thought, in a boring forest, where boring is the highest achievement. The wind chimes continue, the sun keeps filtering, and you stop keeping track of any of it, finally achieving the ultimate panda goal, complete and total inactivity. You've won by every metric that matters, which is none of them. Somewhere, that young panda squeaks its disappointment at existence. The cycle of boring continues. Perfect.